Who is actually the most dangerous threat, and who will be the next traitor? Yep, that's our topic this time. And I'm sure we've all at least seen the leaks for Chapter 26. Honestly, guys, I'm really dizzy and confused. But more precisely, I'm truly amazed by Ikamoto. He managed to create so much conflict in just one chapter. I mean, Chapter 26. Shikamaru is at risk of being removed from his position as Hokage. And of course, that's all because he was identified as being affiliated with a rogue ninja like Boruto. This means not only Shikamaru. Konohamaru will undergo a personal interrogation, and surely, several other shinobi will follow. This is something completely unexpected. The Konoha elders are even more extreme than Danzo himself. However, there is something else that is quite interesting. It is about the shinobi system. Based on the conversation between Shikamaru and the Konoha elders, it seems that the Land of Fire is currently considering whether ninjas are still needed in this era or not. And the question of whether ninjas are actually still needed or not is clearly because Lord Kobu brought up the issue of the budget. Honestly, for the first time, Konoha has to undergo budget efficiency. And also, why does the leader of the Land of Fire want to cut the budget of the ninja village? Is it all because the ninja village's budget is quite large, but its current contribution is not having a significant impact? But what do you think? Is this just a technical error in the translation? Or is Konoha actually facing economic issues? Damn, the conflicts in the Boruto era are getting increasingly complicated. And of course, Shikamaru has now made the decision to carry out a mission to Sunagakure. That mission will also consume the Fire Nation's budget, which, throughout the entire Naruto series, has never been explained to us that each mission requires a budget and such. I mean, it wasn't as complicated as it is now, because of course, the dominant focus was only on conflict, battles, rescues, and mission success. But does it make sense for the Konoha elders to bring up the budget? And what is the real purpose and meaning behind it? Well, if you think about it, if the mission is carried out based on credible information from a reliable and clear source, then the Fire Nation officials would not have a problem with it. But if the information Shikamaru obtained came from the traitor, Boruto, then the Land of Fire would consider Konoha to be supporting a rebel whom the Land of Fire wants to eliminate. This would anger the leaders of the Land of Fire, and they would be unwilling to provide funding for Konoha Village. If this continues, Konoha could disband just because they helped Boruto and Koji. But saying disband is actually an exaggeration. But what would be an appropriate phrase to describe this problem, guys? Anyway, aside from the economic problem, some of Konoha's elders, such as Koharu and Homura, are being very foolish if they think that the Shinju is not a threat that should be prioritized. Ironically, they are more concerned with how to kill Boruto than dealing with the Shinju first. This is ridiculous, isn't it? Because if that happens, it will cause quite a mess in the future. Maybe Kawaki is right. The shinobi world must be destroyed. He doesn't like the shinobi era because they can't prioritize what they should eliminate first. But what do you guys think? Is Kawaki's idealism right? However, the real plot twist is Aida and Daemon. We had assumed that this would be an epic battle between Daemon and Mamushi. Although this will indeed happen, it is Sarada who ends up in a rather troublesome conflict. But the big question is, why did Aida only realize this now? Because as we know, Sarada and Sumire are the only ones who weren't affected by Aida's charm ability since the beginning of the time skip. However, the fact that Sumire and Sarada openly confessed their feelings to Boruto in front of Aida is a big problem because it has created fatal suspicion. Normally, everyone, both powerful shinobi and ordinary people, must immediately submit to Aida's charm. But Sarada and Sumire are exceptions, and it turns out that love is the absolute counter to Aida's ability, which is why Sarada and Sumire are unaffected. However, because they are not affected, it means they can expose the big lie about the false reality that has been implanted in the world, where Boruto is considered the enemy and Kawaki is considered the real Hokage's son. If this information leaks, the entire narrative that Aida and Kawaki have built could collapse. That, at the very least, is what should be Aida's concern. However, another problem arises from Daemon's protective instinct. Believe it or not, he's not actually the type to have his own evil plans. He's more like Aida's guard dog. Once he senses someone who could be a danger to his sister, his reaction is automatic. Kill them first, before they cause trouble. So when he finds out that Sarada and Sumire are exceptions to Aida's abilities, Daemon will assume that they are threats that must be eliminated. In other words, it's not because he personally hates Sarada or Sumire, but more because they are the only ones who can expose this grand illusion. However, I have a reasonable explanation as to why Sumire and Sarada won't be killed. That is, Sarada and Sumire are targets, but that doesn't mean they will be killed immediately. Even though Daemon says he wants to kill them, I don't think Ikemoto will just let them die like that. First, I'm sure Daemon will test their strength first to see how dangerous they are. There might be a brief clash, but it won't be a serious attempt to finish them off. And it also means if this battle really happens, it could be a huge moment. Daemon has always seemed overwhelmingly powerful, but Sarada now has her new Mangekyo Sharingan, which, as Daemon himself said, is something to be proud of. This means that this battle could also reveal whether this special dojutsu of the Uchiha clan can become an exception to Daemon's ability. Most importantly, this battle could be the trigger for Sarada's own power-up, especially if she's determined to protect Boruto, right? However, one thing is certain, even though Daemon is overprotective, Aida herself doesn't always seem that cruel. It's possible that Aida actually forbids Daemon from killing Sarada and Sumire because she actually wants to be friends with normal girls. Believe it or not, guys, Aida is a cyborg who is very frustrated with her own abilities. I mean, she has even complained about not being able to get a boyfriend or friends because it's not something that comes from their hearts, but rather from the automatic influence of her charm ability. So it can be said this is a conflict between Aida's desires versus Daemon's instincts. However, we cannot ignore the fact that Sarada's plot armor cannot be ruled out, especially her ambition to become Hokage, and also Sumire. For some reason, I suspect that Sumire's plot armor cannot be underestimated. She is a key figure who can communicate with Nue and has a big role in Konoha, which is why I think this is part of her plot armor. Therefore, both are too important to die at Daemon's hands right now. However, the point is that Daemon is not an uncontrolled killer. Even though he is brutal, Daemon rarely kills indiscriminately without Aida's permission. So it's more likely that it's just intimidation or a test of strength, not an actual execution. And as a final conclusion, first and foremost, I am truly amazed by Ikemoto's mind in building conflicts that are increasingly layered and branching, especially regarding the discussion of Konoha's ninja budget. But other than that, I'm actually curious about the relationship between Koji and Aida. We know that currently they are singularities of fate, and of course Aida and Koji are allies. Is that right? Well, the problem is right now, Aida cannot allow Sarada to become a threat because she is not enchanted by her abilities. If the conflict between Aida and Sarada ends up in a serious battle between Daemon and Sarada, what about Koji? I mean, he just created a scenario where Yodo must be sacrificed so that Sarada can awaken her powers. Regardless of what I said earlier, that Sarada couldn't possibly die so quickly at the hands of Daemon, at least this is a serious consideration between Koji and Aida. Who is the real threat, and who will be the true traitor? Aida or Koji? What do you guys think? But one thing is certain. Chapter 26 will be released on Manga Plus in a few hours. So yeah, thank you for watching. Like and subs. I'm Nim without the E. See you in the next video. Bye bye, Dada Bio.